Finish the demo. Honestly, this isn't half bad. Solid art, music, and bullet patterns in the battle. Bugs aside, though, I think this is just far, far too derivative of Undertale and Deltarune and related fan works. Look, I'm not the kind of person to trash on a game just for being derivative or a clone, but most good games with that label add some twist or just try to execute the original's ideas in a better way. From Sonic Unity on Game Jolt. I'm making a video game right now. While I'm making this game, I like to check out other games in the same genre as mine, top-down indie turn-based pixel RPGs. This is partially because I love the genre, and partially because I like to find games with the same inspirations as my own and see what people like and dislike about them. Most of all, I've been trying to find as many games as I can that are inspired by Undertale and Deltarune and are in this category. One day, I came across the demo of a game that fit perfectly into that category. The game is called HELLESCAPE. The quote I read at the beginning of this video was a review of that game. If you've heard of HELLESCAPE, it's very likely you know of it for being heavily inspired by Undertale and Deltarune. When I first saw HELLESCAPE, I looked everywhere I could to find what people were saying about this game, like I do with every game in the genre that is the same as my own. Almost every review, good and bad, had one thing in common. They all mentioned the similarities of this game to Undertale and Deltarune. So I had to see this game for myself to really understand what they meant. Visually, the game is immediately inspired by Deltarune, and you can see it pretty clearly. However, while this did bother me a little bit at first, I noticed something about this game that felt kind of different than, let's say, Heartbound. And speaking of Heartbound, let's use that as a direct comparison to show what I mean when I say HELLESCAPE was different. This isn't really a HELLESCAPE specific video, but more just about inspiration in general, and I'm using HELLESCAPE to show what I mean. So, just before I start the video, or the main part of the video, I just want to say that. And, I don't know, this is my first time writing a script, so it might not be very good. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear that. My dog is barking right now. Pirate Software's Heartbound was quite the topic around a year ago. I think a year ago, it might have been a little bit longer, but I don't really remember. But this was when Pirate Software started getting flamed for being a bit of a jerk and not making any progress on his game in 8 years. I'm not exaggerating when I say that I watched every single video about Heartbound I could find to see what people hated about it so much. In most of the videos I saw talking about it, people were saying a lot about the guy who's making it and not just Heartbound. The game itself, though, actually wasn't very good. Heartbound is a game about a guy named Lore whose dog goes missing and he has to find it. That's a pretty simple explanation of what it's about. It's kind of about more stuff, but it doesn't really matter, and most of the stuff that it's about never really comes back later, so I don't really know. I'm just giving you a little bit of an overview. This game on the outside looks a lot like Undertale. People say it's a lot like Undertale, and I mean, it just seems a lot like Undertale. But this game, looking closer, doesn't feel like Undertale at all. The humor feels like it was trying to copy Undertale's quirky jokes, but it doesn't do a very good job of it. None of the characters were that memorable, and it kind of felt like Pirate Software didn't even try to make it feel like Undertale. There's also only one fight in this game that was advertised as having unique combat. Well, technically there's 3, but the other 2 don't really count because one of them it's not really a secret boss fight, but it's on the other route, which is impossible to find, and yeah, I'm not talking about it. But the other one that really frustrated me was the meta epic boss lady fight. That's not what she was called. She was called the boss. But in that fight with heavy quotes, she breaks the battle box. This moment of the game pissed me off a lot because it felt as if it was trying to emulate Undertale's meta boss fights, like Asgore breaking the mercy button, but it didn't work at all because there wasn't really a reason for this to happen. Unlike in Undertale, where Asgore destroys the mercy button, which is there to show you that you can't spare him in this fight, and the only way to end the fight is to, fight. Okay. When the boss lady destroyed the battle box, it didn't have much of a point at all, other than maybe because Pirate Software didn't want to code another fight into the game. Also, Asgore destroys the mercy button very late into the game, after you fought tons of enemies, and used the button at least a little bit. But breaking the mercy button was breaking a system that you've been familiar with for a long time and forcing you to do something different. Though in Heartbound, this is only after you fought one single enemy. What if Asgore broke the mercy button after you fought one Frogget? It would make no sense, and it wouldn't really work. But why am I explaining all of this to you, and what does it have to do with HELLESCAPE? Well, this specific scene shows something about the way Heartbound was made, and something about the guy who made it. The game was made with a shallow understanding of what people loved about Undertale. How could someone make a game inspired by another game without being actually inspired by that game? Heartbound feels like it was made because Pirate Software heard that people liked Undertale and heard people say they thought the meta things were cool and the humor is funny and charming, without really feeling that way about the game himself. Because most people who were really impacted by Undertale and Deltarune so much that they wanted to make their own game would take a second and think about what they thought was so cool about it. It doesn't really feel like Pirate Software himself thought anything was cool about Undertale, but he just knew that other people thought things were cool about it. But back to HELLESCAPE. HELLESCAPE doesn't feel like that at all. By playing it, you can immediately tell that it was made by someone who was really impacted by Undertale and Deltarune. And just like how I used a battle from Heartbound as an example, I'll use a battle from HELLESCAPE as an example. The battle I'll use as an example this time is Manica V2, the secret boss of the HELLESCAPE demo. This fight was pretty awesome in my opinion. It feels like Spoofy Maru, the creator of HELLESCAPE, understood pretty well what worked in the Spamton Neo fight of Deltarune. It makes a lot of sense why this fight is the way it is, not just because Deltarune did it, I guess. Manica using this second form does make sense in the story because she literally wants to become Kama, so she takes one of Kama's older models and is attacking you because there can only be one of you. In the way that Heartbound's the boss, I'm not joking, that's actually her name. I know that's confusing, but in the way that Heartbound's the boss fight is trying to be the same as Undertale's Asgore fight, HELLESCAPE's Manica V2 is trying to be Deltarune's Spamton Neo fight. Or trying to be like Deltarune's Spamton Neo fight. However, in my opinion, Manica V2 does a much better job of giving off the same energy and creepiness that Spamton Neo did than the boss in Heartbound did while trying to give off the same energy that Asgore did. Sorry, that sentence is a little bit confusing, but I think you know what I meant. Also, bonus points because the song in the Manica V2 fight is really catchy and works well for the moment. However, HELLESCAPE isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Some aspects of the fight feel very derivative of Deltarune in ways that they didn't really need to be for the fight to still be good. During the regular Manica fight, not the Manica V2 fight, she does seem a little bit like the regular Spamton fight, not the Spamton Neo fight, in her movements and the way the scene is set up, but the thing that makes her not just feel like a Spamton ripoff in this scene and her introduction in general is her dialogue. The way she talks in her first fight is very distinct and makes her feel like a unique and original character. However, in the Manica V2 fight, some of her dialogue just reads like Spamton. Oh my god, the way I said that was pretty cringe, sorry. Okay, here, let me show you an example of what I mean.
Yo, okay, so editing me here, I realized that what I was saying wasn't exactly too clear, and basically, I don't mean that, like, it's exactly like Spamton, like, I don't mean that she's not saying, like, I need your heart-shaped object, or anything like that, like, I don't mean like that, I just mean it reads a little bit more similar to Spamton than the original, than the first, I guess the first dialogue of hers. I don't really know. It still feels like the same character, obviously. Like, it's not like it's directly, literally Spamton. Like, it isn't like that. But, and like, it can definitely be argued that it's not like that. In my opinion, it kind of seemed that way. I don't really know if it'll seem that way to you, and it, like, might not. So, yeah, just clarifying if that made sense.
This is some of her pre-fight dialogue in her non-V2 fight. Now, here's some of Spamton's pre-fight dialogue in his non-Neo fight. It doesn't really read similar at all. I mean, like, I guess kind of. In the way the scene is set up, it does, but the dialogue itself doesn't really. Now, here are some of Manica V2's pre-fight dialogue and the kind of just the scene before her fight, you know? And Spamton Neo's pre-fight dialogue. So, yeah. I hope that showed you what I'm talking about. Things like this definitely contribute to why HELLESCAPE feels exactly like Deltarune and why people feel that way about it. So, Heartbound felt like it was made by somebody who didn't really like Undertale and Deltarune very much. But HELLESCAPE had the opposite problem, where it nailed exactly what people love about Undertale and Deltarune, but also took that a bit too far and bled into the copying territory a little bit with things like that dialogue and the area Spectre Forest looking like the Field of Hopes and Dreams in Deltarune Chapter 1, and also the battle system being like almost exactly the same other than the mini-games. What I think went wrong with HELLESCAPE was that the person who made it knew that they loved Deltarune, but didn't know exactly what they loved about it, so they just took a ton of stuff from it. But if you know me, and you've played the demo of my own game, you probably know that my game, Mega Rove, has some of the same problems that HELLESCAPE and Heartbound have. And that's true. I don't want it to seem like I'm just hating on these two random games for no reason, especially because I'm in the same boat as them. I don't hate these games or games like them, and I think that over time they can improve and become their own unique creations. Well, maybe not Heartbound because it seems like that game is never going to be finished, but at least HELLESCAPE. I believe that they can improve and get better. And I really hope this game gets finished one day because I would really love to see it. Additionally, I realized that I've loved the developer's work for a long time without even knowing it. I never really put together that Spoofy Maru was the same person who made Undertale Kantos, which has been one of my favorite Undertale fan games since I saw it like a while ago. Until I really started looking into HELLESCAPE and I noticed that. So, yeah. But anyways, overall, I think that if you, yes, you specifically, the viewer, want to make something out of inspiration from something you love, you should do that anyways, regardless of whether it'll be too similar or whether it'll be kind of a HELLESCAPE situation. And if you're in the same place as Heartbound and you just want to make a game based off of something that's popular because other people like it and other people like things about it and you don't understand why it's good, I think you should probably just find something you like and want to make and make that instead of taking the Heartbound route, because it just won't be as good if you don't know what made it good, if that makes sense. I don't know if any of this made sense at all. I've never made a video essay or anything or whatever this is at all, but I hope you enjoyed it anyways. Also, if you check out the demo to my game, that would mean a lot to me. I know it's pretty buggy and not the best right now, but I'll keep making it better over time, and soon I'll finish the full game and you all can play it. So, anyways, thank you for watching, and yeah, I think you should go play HELLESCAPE. Probably shouldn't play Heartbound because it's paid, and I don't think that game is going to be finished. I feel like you'd be wasting your money. I'm so honest. You should check out what were they called again? Like, I forgot what they were called, but that game design channel made a really good video about Heartbound that was not biased or didn't feel biased, and it was pretty good. So if you want to know more about that, you can check that out. And if you want to know more about HELLESCAPE, there's a couple of videos I've seen about HELLESCAPE that are pretty popular, and I think you can just find them by searching them up on YouTube. Or you could just play the game. I think you should play the game. I encourage you to do that. It's pretty good, even though it's pretty similar. Okay, I've been yapping for a while, so thanks for watching, and bye. Also, a final thing that I have to say that I didn't include in the script for this video because I got carried away and I didn't realize that I didn't include this, is that Toby Fox also was pretty derivative of a ton of things. Like, literally play any of Toby Fox's inspirations and you'll immediately be like, oh, okay. Like, I think he was just derivative of multiple things instead of just one. And, yeah, I just wanted to add that. So, yeah, bye.